Test, test, test.
It's Ange. Yeah, it's Angela.
Okay. So I'll call this Committee of Adjustment meeting of December the 8th to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note it in the minutes. We will now go to our planner to announce the purpose of this meeting, please.
Thank you. The Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act in order to consider applications for relief from the Township's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, which is Zoning Bylaw 2009-021. The prescribed notices of public meetings are provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents that were located within a 16-meter radius of the subject properties. As well, the ministries and agencies were circulated via email and facsimile. The subject properties were also posted with the sign advertising the public meeting. The notices were available on the Township's website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. In order to be notified of the decision of the Township of Selwyn on a minor variance application, a written request must be made to the Township. The first application that we will be considering tonight is A5220. The owners of the property are Melvin and Mary Thomas. The agent is DM Will Associates Limited, and Emma Drake is the planner acting on behalf of the applicants. And the address is 1571 9th line in the Smith Ward. So the application is seeking relief from the Township zoning bylaw in order to construct a 111.5 square meter, or about a 1,200 square foot second unit, which would be located a maximum of 170 meters from the principal dwelling, be located within the defined front yard, and as well would be within 75 meters of a pit above the groundwater table. The applicant has requested relief so that they can construct this the second unit 170 meters from the principal structure. The request was made to ensure that productive agricultural lands are not consumed and to limit the fragmentation of those lands. Further, the location will allow for easy access to hydro services and an existing well. I believe that the proposal does not detract from the goal of our bylaw to ensure that the secondary unit is indeed secondary to the principal dwelling. The second component of this application is the applicant is looking for a reduction in the setback from a pit above the groundwater table from 150 meters to 75 meters. There is a portion of our bylaw that says that a building permit cannot be issued if the dwelling unit is to be located within 150 meters of a pit above the groundwater table. So we have conferred with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to determine what we require to support a minor variance. The MNRF staff have indicated with providing us with technical advice is their role, and they have suggested that an aggregate resource assessment be completed in order to support the application. Um, that was not provided. Instead, the applicants provided a letter, which you have a copy of. It is my opinion that the letter is not sufficient information for us to determine whether or not aggregate resources would be compromised or impacted, the ability to extract them would be impacted. So therefore, we have provided a recommendation, and I'll read that recommendation to you. So that the applicant be required to complete an aggregate resource assessment that would adequately quantify and qualify the existing aggregate resources on the property prior to any development, and that a copy of that assessment be provided to the township for our review, which would take place in consultation with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. So given those recommendations, I have completed a review of the forecasts under the Planning Act, and it is my recommendation, or it is my opinion, that the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw have been maintained, that the variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use, land or building or structure, and that the variance is minor in nature. And I have recommended, given those conditions, that the committee grant the variances. Subsequent to you receiving this report, we have received comments from the Conservation Authority. The Conservation Authority has identified that the proposed development is within 120 meters of a key hydrologic feature, and therefore have recommended that a natural heritage evaluation be completed. So I have recommended an additional condition that would say the applicant is aware that proposed development is within 120 meters of a key hydrologic feature as identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and that prior to any development or site alteration taking place, that the applicant is required to complete a natural heritage or hydrologic evaluation, and it is recommended that the applicant seek advice from ORCA related to the scope of the evaluation. The applicant or their agent has been made aware of this additional condition, and I'm sure she'll speak to it tonight.
All right. And there's nothing else in the way of correspondence?
No, just what you received, I think, from MTO. We received, that was it, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So Deputy Clerk, I understand that the applicant was supposed to be here in person, but I see no one.
That's correct.
Someone's coming through the door. I'm not sure.
We do have her agent on the line.
All right.
Good afternoon, committee. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you please identify yourself for the record?
Yep, my name is Emma Drake, and I'm with DM Wills Associates Limited, acting as planner on behalf of this application.
All right. Do you have anything to add to what Jeanette has said?
Through you, Madam Chair, I do just like to make a couple of quick comments. Generally, I have reviewed the report prepared by Jeanette and am in agreement with her assessment as it pertains to the 4 tests for minor variance under the Planning Act. We do maintain concerns with a couple of the conditions specific to the aggregate resource assessment and the environmental study. It's our opinion that aggregate resource assessments are generally required where there is a new residential use, where in this case, there's a residential use that is already established on this property. So any impact to the aggregate resources is already there. As Jeanette mentioned, we do have a letter from Drain Bros who operates that facility indicating that the potential for aggregate extraction decreases significantly as you approach this property. And we did just recently, as of earlier this week, review some mapping produced from the Ontario Geologic Survey, which is published by the Ontario Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines. And this mapping shows that, as indicated in that Drain Bros letter, the primary gravel resources on the Drain Bros property do dwindle as you approach the subject property. And the dwelling, as proposed, would actually be greater than 150 meters from the resources as mapped in the Ontario Geologic Survey. Also regarding the hydrologic evaluation, It's my understanding that the intent of the growth plan policies is to establish a 30-meter setback to provide buffering to that feature. In this case, the proposed dwelling is beyond the 30 meters that is requested. There are also some exceptions for agricultural properties that may be applicable to this application where exemption from such a study is required. It's therefore our hope that this application can be approved absent of those two conditions. However, if the committee is not comfortable with that, we would request that the application be deferred back to staff in order to allow us an opportunity to address those conditions and work with staff on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the owner joining you, Emma? Do you know, or?
I was under the impression that they would be in the meeting this evening in person. If they aren't in the chambers, I would suggest that they will not be attending.
All right, thank you very much. And there's no one deputy clerk that was opposed for this application?
There's no one else here to speak on this application.
Thank you very much. All right, I will bring the application to committee. Any questions? Jerry.
Thank you. Through you to Jeanette. I believe it was Emma from the MLS. Emma.
Yes.
Emma.
Emma. Yeah.
Sorry. She had referenced that the ARA study only needs to be done for new use rather than existing.
So this is a new use. This is new development. This would be considered new development.
So new
And
development on that property.
Yeah, and
not
it's
just the property.
that's yes, and that's the information that in the email that you received from Ministry of Natural Resources. That would be their opinion too. They do have concerns with that development occurring.
Okay. And I've just got a couple more if I could.
Certainly.
Thank you. So our bylaw, does that trump the MNR or does MNR trump the bylaw?
So the information or the advice that I received from Ministry of Natural Resources, it is our bylaw and we are the approval authority. However, they would provide us with technical advice for us to make a decision. And so that's what I'm relying on is the advice that they provided.
Okay, so in their advice, they had said should get an ARA, recommend that they should. They don't say shall, must, or is required in that in their language. Okay. So is that so then? At this point, it's the township enforcing it, not necessarily the MNR. So the MNR, who is in charge of all this stuff, at this point has said, you know what, whatever. But it's us that's making it happen.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that the MNR says whatever, but I do. Yes, we're absolutely. You're the decision makers. The township is the decision maker. As the person providing a recommendation, I'm not comfortable with the information provided. That I can provide a recommendation that would say that an assessment is not required. So that's why that recommendation is there.
Anita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I was listening to Emma speak, I was going to suggest that we defer it as she has sort of suggested as well. I think that would be good because there is some questions in my mind as well about these two. Now, I know that, last year, a year and a half ago, whatever, with the Ministry of Sport, Tourism and Culture with regards to archaeological assessments, I don't know how recent this ARA requirement has been around or whatever, but I would suggest deferring it.
Thank you. Donna?
Yes, through you to Jeanette. I would feel comfortable in passing this prior to hearing about the heritage evaluation, which I wrote down as a hydro G. Is that correct?
No, it isn't. No, it's not a hydro G. What it is an evaluation of the hydrologic feature, which is the wetland, but it is very, very different from a hydro G. It's not the same scope. A hydrogeologic study provides us with information related to the servicing capabilities of a property. This is about impacts to that natural feature. And so Emma is correct in the when she mentioned a 30-meter vegetative buffer zone. So that is required regardless, but there's a section of the growth plan that says outside of settlement areas, which this is, a proposal for new development or site alteration within 120 meters of a key natural heritage feature or a key hydrologic feature requires a natural heritage evaluation or hydrogeological evaluation, which would identify the extent of that vegetated protection zone. So it has to be a minimum of 30 meters, but it could be greater. So that's what would be determined through this study. And I did have a conversation with the Conservation Authority just after I received the comments earlier today in relation to the type of use. And this use isn't agricultural nature, it is residential, so it would not fall under those exemptions.
Okay, so I was going to say that I felt that the letter from Drain Brothers was sufficient because they are the owner of the aggregate, and they feel that it wouldn't impact them. And so I felt okay with that, but I'm thinking that we need to find out a little bit more about this other evaluation. So I would be in agreement with Anita that maybe we should defer it.
Are you seconding?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Andy wanted to say something.
Sorry about that. So first of all, on the issue that Donna was talking about, that condition or that study, is that similar to what we do with other minor variances when somebody's building within the 30 meters of the shoreline? Is that a similar one?
That's correct, yes. So that's where we ask for a planting plan.
Yeah.
In order for them to rehabilitate along the shoreline. It's related to that policy, yes.
But is it asking the same piece of work to be done of this homeowner as we would that we generally ask of a homeowner that's building within the 30-meter buffer?
So so if the Conservation Authority approves of the planting plan, then it would meet with the intent of the of the growth plan. So they're asking actually for a heritage evaluation to be completed in this case. I would guess, I can only surmise, it's because their staff hasn't completed planting plans for areas that are outside of shorelines.
Well, I think we probably want to engage in a bit of a conversation with them to see if there's some sort of middle ground that we can find on this.
Well, and if the application is deferred, we absolutely can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the other one, I think I understand the aggregate plan is a vehicle to use. It's a little bit similar to a what do we call it? The MDS. In the sense that you're trying to keep something away so that if you do develop something, it doesn't cause a problem, correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
Right, but the aggregate resource plan is if I understand correctly, and I may have it wrong, is a relatively complex piece of work that needs to get done. And I understand the issue that we're trying to make sure that we don't impair the ability to access an aggregate resource. And with a brand new building or a brand new property, a new residential thing, that might be the route that you go. In this particular case, the holder of the aggregate is telling us that they don't envision a problem. And I realize that's one piece of evidence. There's other pieces of evidence. So if we are going to defer it, can we try to find a way to satisfy ourselves that we're not limiting access to that resource without having to do this sort of full-blown study, which I'm going to surmise, I don't know, is probably a rather expensive thing to do.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure on the cost of it. Absolutely. If the property owners that own the pit, if Drain Brothers has empirical evidence, then for sure that would be part of that assessment that's completed, and would probably satisfy the needs of us. And of course, it would refer again back to the Ministry of Natural Resource and Forestry to take a look at that. That's not what was provided to us, so I wasn't able to make those conclusions. I can also tell you that this is not the first time. So there's an aggregate resource overlay in the official plan that is all across these properties. And we've had a number of properties that have come up for development. And sometimes the ministry would provide us with information saying, given the context of the development, given what we know is there, then the aggregate resource assessment is not required. But I do have an open application where one was required just down the road from this applicant and across the way. But so there, I mean, the ministry does provide us with advice that we've taken, and that's why I have provided the recommendation that I did.
Madam Chair, I would be in favor of deferral as well, with the point on both the point Donna made and the point Anita made, that we try to find a way that we can deal with the issues that we feel without having to get into what
Expensive studies.
That's right. Let's take a look and see if we can do that, and then be able to get the homeowner in a position where they can proceed.
Exactly. So we do have a mover and a seconder to defer this application. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote on this. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next application, A5320, please.
The property owner is Kyle MacArthur, and the address is 2058 7th line in the Smith Ward. The applicant is seeking relief from the township's bylaw in order to construct an attached garage, be 86.5 square meters. It'll be attached with a breezeway, which would be about 14.1 square meters in area. The request is to provide relief from the exterior side yard setback. Right now, the existing structure, the dwelling is 12.6 meters from the side yard, and the garage would decrease that setback to 4.5 meters. The property owner has chosen this location in order to utilize an existing entrance and driveway. Furthermore, the location of the well and the septic system does prevent the property owner from locating this garage addition onto another area of the dwelling. So I have completed a review into the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I do believe that the township's official plan and zoning bylaw have been maintained. The general intent and purpose, sorry, I said that. The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and is minor in nature, and I have recommended that the variances be granted. Further, we have received correspondence from the Conservation Authority who don't have any objections to the application.
Thank you very much. And I understand, Deputy Clerk, that the applicant, Kyle MacArthur, is on Zoom.
That is correct.
Yes. And do you have anything you wish to add, Mr. MacArthur?
I do not.
All right. Thank you very much. And there is no one that is registered to oppose?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. All right. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions on this application? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next application, A0620, please.
Yeah, so this matter is coming back before the committee. It was originally at the June 23rd hearing. And at that time, the committee heard that there was some concerns about safe access to the property related to floodplains that were in existence around the property. And the committee felt that it was appropriate to defer the application to provide the applicant with an opportunity to give us additional information. So since that time, the property owner has engaged an OLS to complete a topographic survey, which did identify that most of the road did meet with the elevation for safe access, and there were small portions of it that didn't. So the applicant, ORCA, has reviewed that and has agreed with those findings and have provided a letter which essentially indicates that as long as the applicant can bring the road up to a safe standard, then the applicant would be able to move forward with the construction of the dwelling. So I have added a condition: the applicant be required to obtain approval from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, including obtaining a permit to complete the necessary improvements to the road. So in other words, raise the road in order to obtain safe access prior to the issuance of the building permit. So given that condition, I would recommend that the committee grant the variances that was applied for back in June and allow the construction of an existing dwelling and proposed addition to be 17.3 meters from the high water mark.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk, I understand that the applicants, Stephen and Lynn Goodbody, are on Zoom. Is that correct?
That's right.
And do either of you have anything you wish to add to what Jeanette has said?
No, we're good.
Okay. And is there anyone that is registered to oppose this application?
No one else is here for this application.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Donna.
Yes, thank you, through you. I assume this property is on the water. I tried to find the map and just couldn't get it fast enough. So is it on the water?
It is waterfront, yes.
So that's
Yeah.
why they need the archaeological assessment.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will ask,
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Tanya, sorry.
That's okay. If we could just split and do two motions. So we still need a motion for 5320 and then have a separate motion for 0620, please.
Why would we want them separate?
Ten.
Yeah, we've done that, yes. No, we usually vote on them together at the end, which is what I was going to do.
Correct. So in terms of the consent agenda, we had the deferred 50, 52 and
Yes.
53. So that's the consent agenda. We decided to defer 52.
Oh, I see.
So that's one motion.
The other
So
one has
just
to be
asking that
separate.
we have
Gotcha.
a separate motion
Yeah,
for
gotcha.
53. Thank you.
All right, so if I can have a motion, please, for A 5320. Andy and Donna, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And a motion, please, for A 0620. Jerry and Anita, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And there's no correspondence or information. Committee of Adjustment meeting of November the 24th. If I can have a mover and seconder for the minutes. Anita and Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. And adjournment. Our next meeting is January the 19th. Donna and Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Our council meeting will start in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Colleagues, I will call this regular council meeting to order and ask that we please observe a moment of silence so that council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Colleagues, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? There is none noted, Madam Clerk. We will move to the minutes. We have three sets of minutes, November the 24th, November the 19th, and November the 30th. Any questions on any of those? Anybody like to move all three? Anita and Jerry? Any discussion? All those in favor? Those minutes are carried. And so that will take us to a very pleasant task today, which is our long service awards. And just before we get into some specific comments, we're going to be doing our firefighters. We're going to be doing some of our other staff, and I think we've got a retirement to recognize as well. And so we're going to get to all of that. We're going to be doing this virtually, so this is something different and is clearly a sign of the times. But I think it's important that we continue to do this despite the limitations that COVID is providing us. So just before we get into the specifics, I just wanted to say a couple of general words in my role as mayor. And first of all, to everybody that's being recognized tonight, but also everybody who is part of this township, to thank them for their service. The municipal government and the professional staff who make it up are critical to the well-being of our community. And when you think about it, the irony of it is when you do things well, the less your role is noticed. And the better you do things, and we do things well here, it's sort of seamless. And so I think it's really important that we take a moment to recognize all of your contributions and service to the community. 2020 has been a particularly challenging year. I don't think anybody would think that's open to debate. The recipients tonight and all of our staff have stepped up in what has been very, very difficult circumstances. And they've had to do this, and I know everybody knows this, but I think it's important to recognize not only are they doing this in their professional lives, they're having to do it and deal with all of their personal lives and all of the challenges and issues that presents to everybody. So I wanted to just to begin by letting everyone know how appreciative we are as a council for all of the efforts that everybody is making. So having said that, we will move on to the actual recipients. And so the way we're going to do this, and Tanya will correct me when I get this wrong, and invariably I will. So the managers or the chief will come on the screen, and they will say a few words for each particular recipient. And then they will go on to the next one, and then we'll switch to another manager, and then we'll have the chief be doing the firefighters. Is that, Tanya, basically the way we're going to go?
That is correct.
Okay, so I will let you. Okay, we have it. So we're going to start off with Angie and Rob on the first presentation. So they're on screen. There they are.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Carla. Hi. Got to say, this is a little weird. So I just wanted to say, I can't believe it's 15 years. I guess we can't call you the rookie anymore. I know that's what we fondly call you around the office. It seems like just yesterday when Carla started with us at the office, she was a bright, fresh face, full of enthusiasm. And she has continued to be that bright face throughout the past 15 years. Carla has many skills, but I would say she excels in customer service. She just has a great way with people. And when people come in, she's our frontline customer service representative, and she certainly does the township proud every time a customer deals with her, either over the phone or at the counter. So thank you, Carla, for all of the work that you do with our customers. She's a very keen learner. In fact, she's been backfilling in the building and planning department for the past year. So I know that Rob wanted to say a few things as well. But I'll just say it's been wonderful watching you grow professionally, Carla. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I appreciate all the things that you have done for me in particular to support me over the past few years. It's been wonderful. So congratulations on your 15 years. And I know that you'll have many more years with that smiling face here in the office. So thank you very much. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you.
Beat that.
Well, that's a tough act to follow, but yeah, I too have had, of course, the pleasure of working with Carla for the last 15 years. She has certainly supported just about every aspect of my department. She has been involved in supporting Jeanette in her planning function, and she's done an admirable job at that. And as Angela mentioned, most recently she's filled in for an absence as permit intake, kind of frontline permit intake person. So she's kind of the Swiss Army knife of the township. She can kind of fit anywhere. She's got a lot of tools, and I guess from my perspective, I'd have to echo the fact that she is a delight to work with. Always very positive. She's very genuine. She's a very genuine character, right? Which makes her a very good ambassador for the township. Yeah, so I guess I'll end on that note. She's been a wonderful component of our township, and of course I wish her well in the next 15 or 20 years that she works for us. So congratulations, Carla.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Okay, we're all gonna, I think everybody's gonna come back on the screen together at the end, so just stand by. We'll go on to the second award or recognition. I think Rick is going to do this, and the recipient is Randy. So, and I think this is going to be by phone as opposed to by video. Do I have that right?
They're both here. They should be on the phone, Randy and Rick.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Randy, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, Rick.
Randy.
Okay. Yes, Randy's been here for 25 years. Randy and myself have started with when it was Smith Township. So Randy has seen a lot of big changes in the landfill operation. He's always been a great asset. Anybody that's visited the landfill see how well it's maintained and looked after. I greatly appreciate all the help he gives me, because there isn't anything on the landfill that he doesn't know about. And thanks, Randy. I do appreciate all the help you give us.
Thanks, Rick. I want to take this opportunity to thank all my coworkers for the support I have received over the past 25 years. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Good.
Thank you, Randy. We appreciate all of your support. Also, from Public Works is for 15 years of service, Kevin Bailey. I understand Kevin was not able to join us this evening, but I'm sure we'd all like to thank him for his hard work and dedication to the township. And Rick, did you want to say anything particular about Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin's been a good help for us too. He helps us in Ennismore with the plowing and sanding. He knows all the stuff that's over there. He was around here before he got on full time. He worked at a subcontractor, worked first in the summer. So he's been a great asset too. I do appreciate all the help he gives us. Thanks.
Thank
Kevin.
you. And then lastly, we're going to recognize a retirement for Suzanne and Angie. Did you want to return and do this one?
Hi.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Suzanne, nice to see you as well. Suzanne, well, your big day is almost here, and you've certainly worked hard to get to this point in your career. Full disclosure, Suzanne and I have worked together for a very long time. We're not going to say how many years, it's just been very long. We actually worked together at the Village of Lakefield, and we were crammed together in what is now known as the Centennial Room. So as you can imagine, there were some makeshift offices in there and desks all over the place, and we actually worked together in that little space with a few others. We both had spiral perms, and for those that don't know what a spiral perm is, Google it. You'll have a good laugh. We wore shirts with shoulder pads. Rob had hair then. Lane's hair, well, it was still white then, but maybe not so much. Needless to say, we worked together for a long time. Suzanne, our hair is a little bit grayer, and we ditched those shoulder pads, thank goodness. But Lane's hair is still white. So a few things have changed, but some things haven't. And we certainly have been through a lot together, both professionally and personally. We share a lot of laughs, a few tears too. But you'll definitely be missed here. Suzanne, after she left the Village of Lakefield, she worked for Smith Township, and then we found our way together when we amalgamated again back in 2001. I will certainly miss you personally, and I know though that we will stay in touch. I know you and Ed have lots of retirement plans, and I know without a doubt that you will definitely enjoy your retirement. So on behalf of all the staff here at the office, because it's a little bit different, we can't do the normal event, congratulate you and send you off in style. But we do wish you well and all the best. And thank you for everything you have done for the township.
Thank you so much, Angie. We have been together a long time. I also want to thank the council and the staff, both past and present, for all of their support, friendship, and laughter through the years. This last year hasn't been what I expected, and I can't really say that I'll miss everybody because I already do. I've been working at home since March, and it's been challenging for sure. But 30 years has flown by, it really has, and I'm looking forward to what the next 30 years is going to bring, or more. So thank you once again.
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne, and best wishes in retirement, and to enjoy those 30 years plus. And it's been great to work with you, and thank you for all your help and assistance that you've provided.
Thank you.
And I think what you want is the folks to come back up on the screen.
Yeah, if we can just get Carla to come back on screen, and Ange will boot you out.
That's Rob.
Am I leaving?
So we're going to try to get the two of them on screen so we can get a picture. That's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, Carla.
There we go.
And there they are.
Sorry, I'm so yellow.
So we'll just get counsel. She wants counsel in the photo as well. Just like that. Just stay like that. She's going to take the photo in there. She can have the staff in the background.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll then move on to the second part of our recognition awards, and these are the Volunteer Firefighter Long Service Awards. And I think Chief Joplin is going to handle this part of it. Chief?
Yeah, evening, council. Usually this is done, in the open a little better. So usually we have different 5-year, 10 years. So actually we're starting at 30 years to going to 50 years this year. So we have a combined whopping years of service of 280 years tonight. So it kind of makes you feel good and proud as a fire chief when you get people that put this much time in and still enjoy it, and they're all still here doing it. So we'll maybe start with our 230 years tonight. First one, Dave Robinson. Dave and both John started around 1990. Dave Robinson was originally Smith Township member, and Dave come up through the ranks, and as you see, Dave's got the shirt on tonight. So Dave is one of our senior captains in Hall 1 and senior captains for the township itself. Johnny Young again started for Ennismore in 1990 when pretty well 3/4 of the members were youngs back in those days. So we still have a few youngs left on the department. And John was actually a captain for a number of years, and just his job had him step down as a firefighter. John's still very active. So guys, 30 years, friggin' awesome, I'll tell you. And both of you are going to be around for a while yet. So congratulations, guys, 30 years, great move. Dave, I see you on.
Yep, thanks, Gordon. Appreciate all your efforts, and I appreciate the efforts of the good people that went before me, including my dad and Oz Westlake, who did a great job to get us all started. And when you grow up with a fire phone in your house, it's kind of hard not to follow along. So here we are. Thank you.
John, you on tonight?
John was not able to attend this evening.
Okay. So the next crew, we're moving up in age again. So here's 3 gentlemen, and that are 40 years this year. So I'll maybe start off with Jim. Jim come to us about, well, Jim's almost 8 years now, coming up this year. Jim was 33 years as a Toronto firefighter and moved up to the area here. So he's been 7 years, coming up 8 years, coming up this year. So yeah, he's one of our great firefighters that has huge experience, and he's a part trainer for the whole township, and does a great job. Jim, I'll maybe let you speak first if you want. Yeah, hit your mute there, Jimmy. Not yet.
There, how am I now?
Good.
Hey, Chief, it's been a pleasure working here. I can't believe it's 8 years here already and 40 overall. Like it just flies by. So I hope the next 10 fly by just as good.
No, let's slow that down. Want to keep around.
Well, okay.
Next gentleman, Todd Wilson. Todd, longtime firefighter. Todd started years and years ago. He's an Apsley boy, and he come up through the ranks there. And Todd was actually chief for Apsley for a number of years, just right after the amalgamations, and carried on. So Todd, he didn't get out of firefighting. His numbers go back right through with Quaker Oats, as he was part of the emergency unit in there. So that carries on as a firefighter. And then about 8 years ago, Todd decided to get, I think a bunch of us kept pushing him when he got into Bridge North, that he needed to get back on and have a bit of fun again. So Todd's back on, and I'll tell you, a lot of experience there too. So Toddy?
Thanks, Chief. It's been a pleasure working on this fire service. It's very well organized and very professional. It's looking forward to another 10 to 15 years. It certainly won't be another 40, but we'll see where we go.
Perfect. Thanks, Teddy. And then we come to Ted. So everybody knows Ted Jackman. So Ted's story starts again in 1980. Ted started when his dad was fire chief of Lakefield, and Ted, maybe you can give that a little bit and how long your dad was on, but Ted started up and never has left the volunteer system. But Ted went into Peterborough and just retired here not long ago as a full-time firefighter for Peterborough. And as you know, Ted's a deputy for the township, and his dedication is true blue and will never leave. So they'll be here maybe another 10 years, eh, Ted? So go ahead, Teddy.
Thanks for the kind words, Chief. I'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to serve the great people of this township over the past 40 years. I look forward to a few more years. I don't know whether, I don't think I have 10 left in me, but we'll play that by years. The Chief did mention that we've got a combined total tonight of 180 years service.
280.
And I think that's, or 280, sorry, years service. And I think that that's amazing, the number of people that have stayed long-term with this organization. I think that speaks volumes in itself. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for this. I appreciate all the efforts for the firefighters do, and all the roles and different roles that they do for the township. And I appreciate Council recognizing the volunteer firefighters for what they do. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. And then we come to the old guys. 50 years. You know, we've got one firefighter that he's going next year. It'll be a whole different set of circumstances. But we've got two gentlemen on, ladies and gentlemen, that started around the 1970 era, and George Jackman and Randy Joplin. So George started again. I guess it would be George would be your uncle. Is that true? Would be Ted's dad in those days. And George come up through the ranks too. And George was chief for quite a number of years until the amalgamation. And both of us put in for it, and then things be as it is. So George is still a captain yet for the department. And 50 years, George. Very good. Hit your mute there, Georgie. Impressive. Hit your mute button there, George. Tanya, can you help him there? Find your mute button there, George.
So George, it's at the bottom of the screen.
Can you hit it, Tan? Can you shut it off and on for him?
Yeah. So George, I just, there should be a message coming up on your screen that says to unmute. Is that coming up?
Yeah. Carry on then, George. All right, if George gets her unmuted, we'll stop. So on our second gentleman, a long time firefighter, started with Smith Township when the original chief was out there. So, and I'm talking, well, I'll let Rand tell that story too, but Rand started in 1907, I think, what, round 16? I think you're probably the youngest to start back then. And Rand's come up through the ranks and has been deputy chief for Smith Township. Smith Ennismore, Smith Ennismore Lakefield, and the deputy again for Selwyn on up through. So right now, as you know, Rand is like Ted, right hand arm for getting things done. And oh, holy crap. So when these guys are gone, I know I'm going to be here for a little while yet. I just hope I can carry them on for until I'm done. But Rand, congratulations too. Are you on? I see your name.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm on.
Yep.
Yo. Yeah, thanks very much, everybody, for doing everything for tonight. Yeah, it's been a lot of years. A lot of things have changed for the good and a lot of change for the bad. But anyway, I'm proud to have been a firefighter for a few years. And thanks for the council for doing it. Just remember it's Christmas and I can't wait for a Christmas bonus. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Rand. So, George, did you get a chance to unlock there? If not, we'll be doing this again. So, thanks, guys, for a lot of years of service.
Board, we're just going to bring everybody back up on the screen and get a picture of everybody together.
All right. So while we're getting those up, council, I just want to give you a heads up. So we're going to try a virtual WebEx Christmas get together December 21st. So mark that in your calendar. It's a Monday night. So I think it might be quite enjoyable for what I've seen today, people putting things together. So council, you're more than welcome. You will be invited. And since we can't have our Christmas due, December 21st is what we're shooting for. And you'll see information come in a later date here.
Hey, Gord, you hear me?
Oh, there, we got George.
Yeah.
Right,
hey, George.
Kind words, and the past 50 years have been really enjoyable, learned a lot. I can't say enough for the guys I've been working with over the years. So thanks a lot. And Randy, what was that? I saw you drinking.
No, you didn't, George. No way.
Nice being home and doing this.
Perfect. Thanks, Georgie. All right, we got everybody up.
Well, thank you to everybody. Thanks for your service and your dedication, and for all you do to protect the residents of our township. It's very, very much appreciated, and particularly in this 2020 year, you've been on the front lines, and so we thank you, and just know how much we appreciate and care for you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. You get to do this again in a couple of weeks.
We look forward to the 21st.
Yeah. So all the wives are invited too. So they'll just try to cram everybody in. Have a bit of fun.
Thank you. And so I'll just wait until Tanya catches up our technology, and we'll move on to the next deputation.
Thank you, guys. I don't know how to leave the meeting. Oh.
They thought you were over there at the township office or
Who
something.
did?
Todd Wilson's left.
Still have an open mic.
I think we're done.
I don't understand something. I spent hours.
Just take a moment and get this all squared away. You got it all clear? Okay. So we are going on to our second deputation from the Police Services Board. And that is a virtual one as well. So welcome. You need to unmute.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. That's good.
Never fails. Boy, that's a tough act to follow. That was, those were some beautiful, lovely accolades there. So through you, Mayor, I'd like to thank council for giving me time this evening to address our recommendation from the Police Service Board. I'd first like to put this item into a little bit of context, if I may. The Smith Ennismore Police Service Board introduced the speed awareness policy with council support, which outlines the procedures to be followed with regards to the speeding related complaints that we receive. The Black Cat, as you all know, was the Black Cat radar detection device, was purchased earlier this year, again with council support. And the speed awareness policy was amended to reflect how that data collected by the Black Cat supports the OPP with scheduled, time-specific directed patrols. The next step in our traffic calming strategy, we're asking council to add a speed awareness sign to the 2021 operating budget, which will be deployed by Public Works, we've talked to them, in response to complaints received by the Police Service Board to and set up to remind motorists in identified problem areas to be aware of their speed. And like the Black Cat, the speed awareness sign will record vital speed data to help us with our traffic calming and patrol and enforcement efforts moving forward. Now, more specifically, with the help of the Black Cat and one or hopefully over time 2 speed awareness signs, we can strategically plan for the expansion of our community safety zones. And I know you've all heard that term, to include both residential and business areas. Rural residential areas to protect pedestrians on the road that are not pedestrian friendly, and business areas where customers are slowing down on the roadway to enter and exit the businesses. Community safety zones have already proven effective in Selwyn's school zones. You've all driven through them. You probably drive through them every day. It's time to start planning to use them in residential and business areas for greater public safety. The province allows this, and they allow the use of what's called automated speed enforcements. Probably we know it better as photo radar, but automated speed enforcement equipment in these zones, with the City of Toronto proving that it's not only effective as a speed deterrent, but it's also a revenue generator. Now it's in its infancy, but it's something to think about down the road. All top tier municipalities and a growing number of lower tier have some form of radar speed signs in use here in Ontario. Those I heard from in the surrounding adjacent municipalities agree that they're very effective. And I've talked to the OPP who very much support their use. So in an effort for public safety, we ask the council support the recommendation to add a speed awareness sign to the 2021 budget. And I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you. Donna, as our member on the board.
Yes, through you to Steve. Thank you so much for your presentation, Steve, and for all your hard work as the chair of the Smith Ennismore Police Services Board. We appreciate it immensely. I am the 3rd voting member of the Smith Ennismore Police Services Board, and I did not support this motion because I believe it to be premature. A speed awareness board could prove to be a good traffic calming device, but I'm in the opinion that we need to collect Black Cat speeding statistics for at least 1 year in order to make an informed, budget conscious decision. I also feel that we need written support from Public Works indicating that they feel they have resources to install and move this device from area to area. I know Rick was at our meeting, but I think it would be a good piece of information for council to have to make a decision. And looking at the 11 Black Cat reports that we presently have, the earliest one was set up on June the 24th, 2020. Therefore, I believe we should wait until at least the summer of 2021 before we start to analyze speeding trends. At this time, it would be appropriate for the Police Services Board to consult with Public Works and the OPP and prepare a request for the 2022 budget if it's deemed necessary. So at this time, I do not support the request.
Other comments?
Okay.
You, Steve. Nice to see you again, Steve.
Yeah.
A couple quick questions. How many people have asked for the speed board? Or is this
How many residents or people on the board, on the police service board?
residents, or is this the genesis? Is that the police board?
You know, the residents, they often say, we have heard over the years that I've been on the board that that might be a possible answer for the problem, but more often than not, they just express concern about the speed that's going on in their residences. They don't provide answers so much as just say, what are you going to do about it? So, you know, what we're trying to do is more than just one answer. And if I may, with respect through your Mayor, answer Donna's questions too about the Black Cat, you're right, has not been in place that long. We have started to receive reports, and on those reports, the OPP has already begun to increase their patrolling enforcement based on the statistics. And how I look at it, and I know you don't share this, but it's how I look at it is it's just another tool in our toolbox. It's not a mutually exclusive item, either the Black Cat or the signboard. They can go hand in hand and provide better public safety. And you also mentioned a timeline, which I also agree with. I think that, you know, it's a little premature to go purchasing one right at the outset of the new year and think we can install it immediately. But if we don't get it into the 2021 budget, then we're waiting yet another year before we can actually start to use this data for what I think is its most important purpose, is to establish an expanded community safety zone structure in this township. As far as Public Works is concerned, you're absolutely right. We should get it in writing, but we did have Rick on board with our last meeting that he didn't seem to see a problem in installing them.
Thank you. Just anecdotally, Peterborough, I see those guys, they've got a trailer hitch and they just drop it off the side of the road themselves. So in talking to Val over the years that I've been on council, and her history, Selwyn Road comes to mind when we were getting a lot of complaints out there that there really wasn't an issue out there at that point. The Black Cat has proven different, but I don't know, I didn't pay attention to the dates on when it was done, because now it's 50, 60, 70, might be 20. I don't know what the speed limit is on Selwyn Road anymore. But in looking at the Black Cat reports right now, I don't see a speeding problem. I see a perception problem. And I had mentioned that to an officer one day, and he agreed that that's part of the problem. My workplace, we've got ladders on our trucks, and I get at least 2 calls a year saying they were roaring down the street because the vibration of the ladders, it sounds a lot louder. Selwyn Road, for example, the heavy trucks going through there, whether empty or full, they make a lot of noise. They got to be doing 100. Well, it turns out they were doing 78. So my concern is, I understand what you're trying to do. I respect what you guys are trying to do, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. However, I think it's more about education when we're talking to these people about the perception of it. We just did a Fairburn Street the other day, and I told the people straight up, you may not be happy with the results. And the Black Cat proved that the speeding was not an issue there. Was it high? Yeah, but it wasn't to the extreme mark. So again, I'm with Donna. I'd like to see this, a year of data, and then we can figure out whether we truly and honestly have a speeding issue in Selwyn right now. Because as I see with the, 12 reports we've got, we don't have a speeding issue right now.
Yeah, with the Black Cat reports, I was surprised with that they consider it to be a concern when it gets up to the medium level. I would have thought that when it was in the high red zone that it became a problem, but in fact they upped their patrols when it's just out of the low area and going into the medium one, that's when they actually do it. But and just to answer one more thing, Jerry, it's not actually one of the trailer drawn boards. You understand, it's one that goes up on a signpost to control.
I got Anita, and then I've got Sherry, and then I've got Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I honestly don't have a problem with spending $4,500 on a unit such as this. I'll vote with whatever the will of council is, but I think that anything that can be used as part of this toolbox, I think is a good investment. I know that if I'm driving in Peterborough and there's, the flashing tells me how fast I'm going, it's a deterrent. Not that I'm speeding, but it's good to know that, there's something out there that's kind of keeping track of, how fast vehicles are traveling. So I don't have a problem, but I'll just go along with whatever council decides, because I'm on the fence.
Thank you, through you. It's interesting that you say that, and you did that. It tends to slow people down because it's known. There's a radar board on Robinson Road or Ennis Road. I'm not sure. Yeah, Ennis. And one of our residents, who's also the CAO of the county, has said that she knows that people purposely go as fast as they can through that to try. Yeah, and she says it happens habitually, where people are trying to beat the board. So instead of slowing them down, it's speeding them up. And who knows what the mindset is of the people who do this, but it is known to happen quite often. So it isn't always a deterrent. It can work in the opposite. I think we haven't really had enough time with the black cat. I think we should let it do its job. I agree with Councillor Heron that a lot of it is perception. People think they're speeding, but the black cat's proving different. And so I think it would be worthwhile to wait for a year to see what happens if we really do have the speeding problem that we say. $4,500 is $4,500, and we can spend it in other places. There's always lots of places that need that kind of money. So I'm in support of what our member on the Police Services Board, our council member, is saying. And I don't know if she's going to put forward a motion, but I look forward to it. And in the meantime, I do have a question through you to our delegation, Steve. The traffic, or what is it called, that policy?
Traffic log.
Yeah.
Yes.
In that policy that we are just seeing for the first time tonight, there's been some changes made. It says that there will be traffic calming strategies used, and I'd like to know what you mean by that, because the public is going to perceive that to mean that we are going to use speed bumps or bollards, and I don't want that to be the thoughts that the residents will think is going to happen with this policy.
Okay. Through you, Mayor, I believe the speed awareness policy was approved by council earlier this year when Suzanne drafted it up and we put it into council for approval. But specifically for your traffic calming question, we don't know, quite honestly, what those, what form those are going to take. It's going to depend on where the infractions happen, how bad they are. I mean, and traffic calming techniques is a wide range of answers. There's no speed bumps. I think we pretty much ruled out because of our winter conditions and the plows just can't do it. But there's quite a number of other traffic calming techniques that the cities like Guelph are using, and I can't describe them all to you right now, Donna, but or Sherry, but but we don't know what they are. It's just we can't get there. We can't actually identify the problem areas until we start getting the equipment in place to, you're right, prove that these trucks are going the speed everyone thinks they're going, which they may not be, and when they're doing it, and so on.
Just a point of clarification, Madam Clerk, that has not come to council, has it?
I'm sorry, Andy, I couldn't hear you.
I'm just
Can't
saying
hear
that the policy has not yet come to council.
Sorry, there is a policy that has been approved by council. The policy before council this evening is an amended policy. So there's the items that are highlighted are updates to the policy that has been approved by council.
Thanks for the clarification. So it's, I realize there's an existing one, but the amended one is what's, okay.
Which includes the traffic calming
Portion of it,
strategy
yeah.
comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, just one quick point on that. The amended policy, we amended it because we purchased the Black Cat radar detection device. We wanted to include that in the policy and what procedures would be taking place after those reports that you have in front of you come to our attention. And that policy will continue to be amended as we add other equipment to our toolbox.
Okay. Donna?
Yes, I would just like to make a motion on this regard and see if I had any support. So whereas the 11 Black Cat reports that we now have, 6 show low enforcement requirements and 5 show medium enforcement requirements. So therefore, and the earliest setup that I see is June the 24th, 2020. Therefore, let it be resolved that we wait until at least the summer of 2021 before we start to analyze speeding trends, as at this time it would be appropriate for the Police Services Board to consult with Public Works and the OPP and prepare a request for the 2022 budget if it's deemed necessary, and to receive the chair of the Police Services Board's presentation.
Okay, there you second it. Further conversation? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, council.
We will now go on to 2 public meetings, which we're a little bit late getting to. Tanya, is there anybody registered to speak to these meetings?
Yes, just that down and I'll get them.
Okay. And as we're welcoming our guest, Jeanette, you have a preamble that you need to put into the record.
Thank you. So the township is holding public hearings in order to consider applications to amend the township zoning bylaw, which is a zoning bylaw 2009-021 in accordance with section 34 of the Planning Act. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within 120 meter radius of the properties that were subject to the application, as well as by a sign being posted on the property. The notice was provided by email and fax to the prescribed ministries and agencies, and the notice is available on the township's website. The notification does comply with requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Selwyn before the bylaw is passed to the person or public body, is not entitled to appeal the decision of the council to the local planning appeal tribunal, nor can a person or public body be added as a party to a hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the first application that council is considering tonight is application for lands described as part lot 37, concession 15 in the Smith Ward. They're municipally known as 2808 15th line. The township has received a complete application. The subject lands are designated rural and environmental constraint area, and they are zoned rural. This application is a condition of consent to sever application B5719, which was imposed by the township. The intent of the severance application is to create a residential lot. That's why we're going to be, the zoning will change to rural residential and to environmental protection as a requirement to support the consent application. Environmental impact study was completed. There is a wetland area that is just south and east of the subject lands. The environmental impact study determined that A 45-meter vegetated protection zone was required around the wetland. So the the new lot will not be within the wetland, but it is a small corner of it is within the environmental protection zone. So that portion will be rezoned to environmental protection. The remainder of the lot would be rural residential and it's developable. So I have recommended, because, sorry, it is my opinion that that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. It also maintains the spirit and intent of the county and township's official plan and the township zoning bylaw. And I have recommended that bylaw 2020-074, which is a bylaw to rezone those certain lands situated within part lot 37, concession 15 of the Smith Ward, from rural to rural residential and environmental protection, be brought forward to the bylaw section of the agenda for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody who would like to speak against the application? Not seeing anyone or hearing anyone, I will ask council. Is there any comments from council? There's no council. Yes, Karen?
Move the recommendation.
Seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's move on to the second one, please. Thank you.
Okay, so this application is for property in part lot 7 concession ECR in the Smith Ward, and the property address is 1896 Shamong Road. Again, so this application is a condition of consent to sever application B5219. The intent of this severance application was to create 2 agricultural parcels. And so it was a very large parcel and will be split into two agricultural parcels. So the subject lands are designated prime ag and rural, and they are zoned agricultural, rural exception 187 and environmental protection. And this amendment will actually zone a portion of the subject lands to environmental protection. So similar to the last application, an environmental impact study was completed to support the application. The Conservation Authority did recommend that those portions of the property that were identified to be key natural features and VPZ of 30 meters be rezoned. The county imposed that condition, and of course, since the zoning bylaw is our bylaw, we would have to carry through with that condition. So I have completed a review of the application, and I do believe that the proposal is consistent with the PPS and the growth plan, and it does maintain the spirit and intent of the county and township's official plans and zoning bylaw. And I do recommend that bylaw 2020-076, which is a bylaw to rezone certain lands as identified in the EIS from agricultural and rural zone to environmental protection, be brought forward to the bylaw section of the agenda for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in favor? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against the application? Not seeing anybody, and there's nobody online, right? Okay, council, any comments? Anita, seconded by Sherry. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody registered for question period?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. Do people want to have a break, or do you want to keep on going? Okay. We will go to the municipal officers and staff reports. So this is a summary of recommendations in respect of the 4 plans that service delivery reviews that had been done. And Janice, did you want to speak to this to begin?
Sure, I can just introduce it. So yes, as you mentioned, the 4 service delivery review reports for the fire service, landfill site, parks and recreation services, and water and sewer services were received by council on November 16th. At that time, they did ask staff to come back with a summary of the recommendations and a proposed implementation timeline for their consideration. So ultimately, what this will do is provide some guidance for staff in terms of how these recommendations would progress progress through our annual work plan process. Sorry, I'm steaming up here. I can't see. You'll note when you go through the documents, there are some items that were recommended that really are more ongoing items or operational items, so they really can just carry on without any further direction. And obviously, as we work through work plans over the next few years, if other priorities come up that as established by council, then timing would always be flexible. Given that we are discussing our work plans in 2 days' time, what we did do was include the items that we had identified for 2021 in the work plans as well, as you will see in those reports. But certainly any changes that council makes to these would be reflected in the work plans once they're finally approved after Thursday's meeting.
Okay, colleagues, I think what we'll do is, for the ease of going through this, we'll go through each report. And so we'll go first to the fire services report, and then I'll ask each counselor if they have any comments that they want to make on the fire services report. So I'll start with Donna on fire services. Any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, Sherry on fire services? Rita? Jerry? No, I do have a comment though that I'd like to make. So, and it comes to what I've talked about before, which is the fire master plan. So, in effect, because of the impact of the way we're suggesting moving forward, we'll go about 10 years between fire master plans. And I just want to make sure, I don't know whether the chief's on the line, but Janice, from you as well, that having 10 years elapsed between fire master plans, that in no way places us at risk, or, clearly, most importantly, our residents at risk, but also whether it increases any liability risk vis-a-vis our insurer, because we haven't done a fire master plan in 10 years. And if the answer is no, it doesn't, well, that's great, but I just would like to have that assurance.
Apparently the chief isn't on the line, so certainly I don't think it's unusual, and I think this discussion was had when the consultant was with us as well. For a fire master plan to be every 5 or 10 years, the 10 years isn't unusual for a municipality of our size, as I understand it from their conversation. There is no requirement for us to have a fire master plan, so it's not as if we're not adhering to some legislative requirement. So certainly I don't believe that there's anything by not updating that plan that would put you at a level of greater risk. Obviously, if there's any issues that come to our attention, we would bring them forward to council regardless of whether or not they were in a fire master plan. I think certainly getting that where there is some time critical component is with the community risk assessment. So there is a requirement that we have a community risk assessment done by 2024. Getting that done sooner rather than later, I think would be a good thing. If we can get through that in 2022. Waiting beyond that, I think you might find there'd be a real glut of municipalities trying to get them done at the last minute before 2024. So that's really why we put that on the 2022 radar.
The community safety plan.
No, the community risk assessment.
Yeah. Okay, the second question, I noticed that the recommendation about looking at the structure of the fire department, organizational structure of the fire department, is that the suggestion is to defer any work on that to 2022. And is that simply a workload issue?
The suggestion actually is that we would go through that process in 2021.
But we wouldn't see any changes to 2022.
Yeah, so if there was something critical that was identified that we felt we needed, we could always bring forward a further report to council coming out of that review. But just in terms of timing and yes, workload, it's the idea of getting through that review and then having the time to be able to implement. And if we have it completed in 2021, we would be able to see implementation very early in 2022.
And the last thing that I have on the fire department, there's a commitment to looking at our hiring policy and any changes to that, but if I don't seem to have been able to see that there's any kind of time frame or date attached to doing that. I may have missed it.
Okay, so with the item, I think you're referring to item number 5. So with our hiring policy, I believe the recommendation was having the human resources coordinator, or if it was a senior position, perhaps a representative from another fire department at the hiring table. So certainly we do already have the human resources coordinator involved in any recruitment process there for full-time staff or the volunteers or the officer positions. So we do already have that that in place.
I'm more referring to the first sentence in the response. Conduct a review of relevant policies and procedures within the department and identify best practices being exercised in other departments. I'm just looking for a date when we expect to get that done. That's the first sentence in the response to number 5. I realize that we have some things that we're doing.
So the date there is 20, that would be in the 2022
That
work
would be
plan.
2022 as
Yeah.
well. Okay. Anything else on fire? No. Our next one is landfill site. So we'll start at this end with Anita. Anything on the landfill site? Jerry? Sorry? No? Okay. Jerry?
Thank you, through you. This might be operational, one of the things you mentioned, Janice, but one of the recommendations that was in the report was that up-to-date road lists be given to the scale house. Is that something that's going to happen? Didn't form part of any of the recommendations.
Yeah, so that item was around the scale house being able to identify where folks were coming from.
Yes.
So for sure, they do have that information, but it is something that needs to be currently or continuously upgraded.
Yes, so
updated.
it is going to happen because it's not part of this, but
Yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
part of the-
That's something that we do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure
And
that
I
happens.
think, yeah, and I think part of it as well as we're looking through some of the other data management things that we need to do, we might need to look at different mechanisms to have that information available. So it's, yeah, that'll be a work in progress as we're working through all of
All right.
that.
So should it be added to this or?
No, I think we understand what the requirements are, and it will be really as part of that records management piece and that data management piece.
Okay. Thank you.
Donna? Okay, I had a couple of things here. Just a general comment. In looking at the waste disposal site, what I'm struck by a little bit is that we're entering into the upcoming year, which is going to be a period of great uncertainty in terms of the impact of a number of external factors on us and on the volumes that we're going to be processing. So first of all, the province is in the process of its producer responsibility changes. That will have an impact, indirect, but it'll have an impact on our landfill, as depending on how they implement producer responsibility. As we know, there's some concern about what that will look like in a smaller rural community than what it will look like in a large urban center, and the impact that will have on people's willingness to recycle. Our Clear Bags program is in a soft launch space, but I think it's September 1st it becomes mandatory. That's going to have an impact on our operations, and we're going to need to be cognizant of it. And there was a couple of suggestions in there about how we handle opaque bags that are coming to the landfill site directly. The eventual issue and how we deal with organics and whether there'll be a program that exists will have an impact on our volumes. And the one that and I see that you're going to come back to it is what the results will be coming out of the Bensford fee changes and how that's going to impact us. And so it's a bit of a time of uncertainty. And the challenge is these are uncertainties that are being driven by factors that are primarily out of our control. We're going to have to end up being responsive. It's very difficult to be proactive. So anyways. Parks and Rec is the next one, and we started, so we're back to, we'll start with Donna again.
Yes, thank you. Number 3, but I think this will be fleshed out on Thursday when we talk. I had a little concern about creating a community recreation liaison. I didn't really understand how that would work, but I think I can leave it until Thursday because I can see from looking at the paperwork for Thursday that we're going to talk about that more. So I'm fine now with it, I think.
Yeah, so if I can just note, so on Thursday, really what we're talking about in terms of the organizational structure is the building and planning department and one change with respect to facilities maintenance. So we will still be continuing to work through the other service areas.
But that particular position, from what I understand, from what I read and the paperwork for Thursday, would be combined with another position as part-time?
No, this is not addressed in the report that we're talking about on Thursday.
Okay, so could you explain to me then, I don't understand what this community recreation liaison would be doing. I can't see that there'd be a lot of work for this person.
Yeah, so this is a recommendation from the consultant. So certainly we would look at this kind of in coordination with everything else we're looking at within that service area. There is just the one matter that we're dealing with on Thursday, and we're dealing with that because of a retirement. So there's just some recommendation around that facilities maintenance position specifically because of a retirement.
So I think, just to be clear to Donna's point, the position that's being recommended by the consultant is not the position that you're recommending on Thursday.
No. And we haven't even evaluated whether or not we would recommend this type of a position. I think really if you read through the report, there's numerous areas where they're talking about more outreach to community groups, developing programs, marketing, just a bunch of kind of new work. We do what we can, but I think what the report was trying to recognize that there probably is more that we could do, but if we are going to reach that much more, we don't have maybe enough resources existing to do it. So that's what they're pointing out in their recommendation. Yeah. But there's no recommendation coming from us at this point because it's still to be considered how we would try and manage what they're speaking to here.
Okay, that's fine because I personally believe that there's only so many bushes that we can beat in this municipality, and I think we have a lot of support from the community and the businesses for our recreation operations. So I'm not just too sure how, and I'm glad you're still going to look at it, but I'm not sure how much more we can ask for partnerships. So that was just my concern.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you through you. For the 24th recommendation on this form, undertaking a Lakefield Marina utilization study, I think possibly the outcome of the Lakefield campground study could have a bearing on the possible ability to grow the marina at a second location. And it's not mentioned here. I want to make sure that is not lost when we're dealing with this 24th recommendation. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I guess if I was to interpret what you were saying, you're thinking that we might need a second location for a marina?
Yes. And it could figure in with the Lakefield campground study, depending on what direction we go there. I think members of council understand what I'm trying to say. Maybe I don't want to make myself too clear.
Okay, I guess that would have to be considered as part of our review of the campground operations and what that operation is going to look like.
But there is a list of things to look at in the marina utilization study, and that isn't one of them, the possibility of growth.
Yeah, so I think it does definitely mention in the discussion around that, that item in the report, expansion potential, if there is any, is definitely an item that would
But
be.
it's not on here.
Okay, this is, yeah, perhaps they didn't include that specific word in their recommendation, but we can just.
I just want to make sure we don't lose it.
Yes, no, we definitely know that is an item
Okay.
of consideration.
All right, thank you.
I'll come back to you. Gary?
Thank you. Through you. With regards to recommendation 3, I'm with Donna on that. And that one was kind of irking me a little bit because I don't know what, they do all day. But where I think there's an opportunity is that aligns, if we were to go ahead with that, which to me it's simple, you throw that into the economic development portfolio, because as they're out talking to businesses and seeing people, that's when they can engage on the liaison portion of the recreation aspect of their position, I guess. So what I'm trying to say is it aligns nicely with economic development. Should and if we go forward with this, that's the angle I'm coming from. Is it's economic development 101, who's going out there trying to get money.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at what's all on the line for 2021, it looks like this department is going to be really, really busy if we go ahead with the recommendations as outlined. So it's going to be a very busy year with regards to a second location for a Lakeville Marina and tying it in with the campground study, which I'm really looking forward to. I know that there's, so where the current marina is, there's a long waiting list for boat slips. And on the other side of the river, I think all of those boat slips are also spoken for. Those ones on the Hague Boulevard side, I would think so. And there's not a whole lot of other locations to be able to put additional docks unless it's closer to the dams or whatever, like sort of heading that direction, but it's kind of rocky there. But some potential for putting in additional docks for sure somewhere along the river.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to refer to number 24 as well, that there is considerable shoreline in the area of the trailer park. So if we did change the use somewhat, then we would have certainly more areas that would be a potential opportunity to put docking there. Wouldn't be on the same side of the river, but it's still not that far for boaters to walk to get into the main part of the village. So I think we don't want to lose sight of that opportunity.
Okay. Did you want to respond to that?
Sorry, I was having trouble with my button there. Yeah, for sure. So if that's an area that council would like to explore as part of that review, for sure that would need to be brought forward as part of that.
Okay. I had a couple of questions here, and maybe it's just me, and I wouldn't be surprised, but as I go through this report and several others, we are often talking about the issue of technology and the various initiatives that we're undertaking. We've got a building and planning piece, or we got a building piece, we got a planning piece, we've got an accounting piece. We're talking in terms of Parks and Rec about a piece, and when we're doing with the landfill, we're talking about a piece. It would be helpful for me, and I don't want to create a whole whack of works or even some sort of oral presentation that just sort of describes the various technology initiatives like across the township wide that we're taking, and the ones that we have identified still need to be dealt with. I know we're working really hard on it. We're making some good progress on things. I just kind of like to get a snapshot of where we stand without creating a tremendous amount of work to create the snapshot.
Right, so when you see the work plan for 2021, it does speak to kind of the phase 2 of the technology plan and the areas that we would be looking at. So that might be a way to facilitate that conversation.
Okay, so I'll park that till Thursday. Okay, fair enough. The costing review that's being recommended is, you're suggesting doing that 2022 or 2023. So again, I take it that's probably a workload issue that to defer that. Okay. In terms of the now that we have a outside consultant making an observation about snow plowing, and we're looking at trying to deal with that in 2023. Again, I come back to my liability issue. Now that somebody's pointed out to us about snow plowing, if we have an issue with it and we haven't dealt with it for 2 years, is that going to create some difficulty for us?
Well, that when we look at that review, I think it's going to be broader than the Recreation Department, because right now the way things work, the Public Works Department provides that type of service for all of our municipal facilities, including our fire service and the Parks and Rec Department. So where it becomes a bit of an issue for the Parks and Recreation Department is in very limited circumstances in the winter. You maybe have a couple of weekends in the winter where there's been a big snowfall and it takes some time to get it cleared out. So people are trudging through a bit of snow to get into the arena, and the parking lot can't be cleaned up well by the time the Public Works folks get there. So we have liability, anytime, whether the snow is cleared or whether it's not. And it is pretty limited circumstances where this is actually an issue. And because we would like to look at it at a broader level across the corporation, that was the timing that we felt was appropriate given everything else that's going on.
Okay. The last thing I'm going to say about the Parks and Rec review, and it really has applicable to other areas as well. One of the realities is things that prior to March of 2020, we sort of took for granted in the way they would work, and or took for granted that we weren't going to be able to make changes, is going to be a very different reality post-COVID-19. So the way minor sports operates, the way it's governed, the way people look at recreating, the rules around recreation, there's going to be a very different thought process. An example can be as simple as when the season begins and when a season ends, is an example of what I'm talking about. That's just one example. Being involved in a different minor sport, the number of changes that have had to happen, the number of changes that we know are going to be permanent, will have an impact on the venues that get used. So I'm just saying we're going to need to be very cognizant of and adept as we move, hopefully, through 2021 into a post-COVID world, that some of those changes that will become the rule rather than the exception are ones that we can incorporate in the way that we service the various groups that use our facilities. You don't need to comment on that. That's more of a statement than anything else. Okay, the last one, colleagues, is water and sewer services. And I think it's just the fourth one, so we'd start at Anita, I think.
Just with regards to your second point there about the seek competitive bids from the Peterborough Utilities, Aqua, etc. Is that something that we would seriously consider? Because I think Peterborough Utilities Services does a good job for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'd really have to take a good look at that to determine whether or not that actually is feasible for us. Really, there aren't any other players in local or regional market in terms of having a presence to provide those sorts of services. Other than the aqua is an option, but I think we'd really want to consider whether or not that would be a process that we'd want to go through, given that fact that there just really isn't a presence. So the likelihood of getting a comparable cost might be challenging.
Jerry? Donna? Just adding to Anita's point, because I tend to agree with her. Having said that, though, if I remember correctly, the consultant made the observation that we've gone a long period of time with the contract without really taking a deep dive into the terms and conditions. So I just want to make sure that as we have those discussions with the utility, that we do in fact do that deep dive and make sure that what the contract says going forward is going to reflect the realities of 2020s and not the realities of the first 20 years of this century. So
Yes. So the first item in the proposed implementation and timelines is doing exactly that, having that conversation.
yeah, I know we're going to have a conversation, but I want to make sure that it represents a deep dive. We have a conversation with them on a regular basis. I just want to make sure that we aren't making any assumptions, that it's basically a zero-based conversation, not simply this is the way we've always done it, this is the way we're going to continue to do it. I think it's the consultant, I read anything out of the consultant's report besides the recommendations that Anita referred to, and I think that's not something we're positioned to do. But I just want to make sure that our review of the contract is in fact comprehensive.
Yeah, I tried to provide some examples of that in the document here. So it's talking about potential changes to the contract language to meet township and PUG objectives. And some examples are around reporting operational efficiencies, maximizing effectiveness of capital investments, proactive preventive maintenance programs. So those were some examples that I included to try and give you a sense of the broadness of that conversation.
We look forward to a report on that. Okay, anything else on those reports? The motion to receive, Anita, seconded by Donna. All in favor? Carried. Hey, colleagues, what say you? Keep going. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just Don McPherson has come back. He just wanted to say a few words to council, if the chair would permit that. He just wanted to address Ms. Thompson in terms of a thank you for her service.
Sure, go ahead, Don. Just stand at the mic. That way everybody can hear you. Just stay away.
You know, I was looking back home down the road and I just thought to myself, I forgot to do the most important thing to me tonight, and that was to thank Ms. Thompson. In all honesty, we got this 250-acre farm, and some bad miscommunication with myself, desperately needed to have it settled and go through the procedure of having it settled. And something came in up at the last minute about rezoning. And honestly, if it wasn't that lady, you got a great employee there, I would have been eager to doing what I wanted to do. And I can't believe how sincerely thankful I am to my family. We have no intention of selling a parcel of the farm. It's done strictly for family reasons, for Charlie. But I've got to tell you, great lady there. And I really appreciated that. And I had to come back because of that. Okay?
Well, thank you for taking the time to come back and do that.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we will now move on to the second report, and this is on the county sign bylaw, election and private property signs. Is Rob out in space there somewhere?
Yep, I am.
There you are.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a report that Angela and I kind of collaborated on. So council would probably remember that the county sign issue has been before us a few times. And I've actually incorporated or included the reports that were completed the last couple of times that it was before council. The last time was in June of 2020. We were privy to, well, we reviewed a comprehensive sign bylaw that the county had put forward. We were happy with its contents as it was comprehensive and included some of the concerns that we had expressed based on some earlier suggestions that were made by county staff. In any event, what transpired since June of 2020, the last time council looked at it, is a more streamlined, I guess, sign bylaw was provided to county council. Ultimately, it was passed, and it covers signs within county road allowances, save and except for election signs, and doesn't speak at all to signs outside of road allowances. So by the standards that applied prior to the passage of this more recent bill, the county did look after election signs in their road allowances, and they also regulated signs within 400 meters of their road allowances. And we felt it was important that the county continue to do that when we commented on the original bylaw, because that obviously prevents some proliferation of billboards and other signs that could be problematic. In any event, when county council passed this most recent bylaw, it repealed the provisions that speak to signs outside of the road allowance and election signs. And so county staff have reached out to the municipality and asked us for our thoughts about taking on the role of enforcing signs, election signs within county road allowances. And in addition, they also wanted the municipality, I think, to be more involved with regulating signs within 400 meters that are currently or were previously addressed by county council. So we drafted this report to kind of summarize all of that for council, and made the recommendations that are found within it. Essentially, we're saying that we don't want to be delegated the authority to regulate election signs in county road allowances, and we think it's important for the county to reconsider the notion that they get out of the business of regulating signs within 400 meters of their roads. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This is just more downloading by the county, in my opinion. And when it comes time, I'll move the damn thing.
I absolutely agree that this is just county downloading again.
So you second it. So it's moved it. Okay. Comments? Okay. Jerry?
I believe that the proper thing to do is to send this right back to the county, and I sit on county.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carried. So that's the recommendation as stated in the report. Okay. And then our staff report on the water systems, the 6-year financial plans. This is Lane. You out there somewhere, Lane?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. This report is really a condition of our municipal drinking water license, and our operating authority is putting that together now. And so we're required to develop a minimum 6-year financial plan. Overall goal is to show that the system is financially viable. And so the paperwork that's there shows a Lakefield water system and the Woodland Acres water system are both viable over the period of time. I did want to note I'm just not sure in council's report, it may have said in the recommendation 2021 to 2027. But as you can see in the attachments, it should be 2021 to 2026, as outlined on the footers of all the pages that are there. And I did want to point out as well that this plan is definitely at a very high consolidated level. It confirms the viability of the system. And while it does inform, of course, our annual budgeting process, council still retains the ability to set annual budgets based on any new estimates and new information as it's made available. So the report as presented satisfies the requirements of the license, and if council sees fit to approve the recommendation, it would be forwarded to our operating authority and sent in with a municipal drinking water license application.
Thank you, Lane. Questions, colleagues? Yes, Anita?
I have two questions, and it's probably, the first one is probably a really foolish question, but under your Lakeville Water System Statement of Financial Position, the financial assets, accounts receivable due from township and accounts receivables operations, what exactly does it mean due from township or operations? Because they're quite a bit.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. In both of these instances, the water department is treated separate and apart from the township, much the same way that we handle our budgets, because the entire township doesn't have full municipal water. So it's treated such that the due from township has to do with any of the assets, the reserves, those types of things. Due from operations is the amount which our current billing authority, which is Peterborough Peterborough Utilities Group. They owe the waterworks on any given point in time at the end of the year receipts that they collected in December. So this shows the position at the end of each year.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Under your, on the second page, expenses administrative for 2019 actuals, just under $53,000, and for 2020 projected is just over 103,000. Was there only a part-time person under administrative for 2019 versus what's projected for 2020?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, no, there's a number of smaller administrative amounts that add up to that. So it isn't actually wages and salaries at all. It's just actually different administrative amounts, and then we project forward based on the 2020 projected.
Okay, any other questions, Sherry?
Move the recommendation.
Seconder is Anita. Just before I call the vote, I had a question. In your report, I believe, Lane, you referred to the fact that we're likely to see a fee increase in 2022. The fees will stay the same in 2021. When you're talking about a fee increase in 2022, do you have some sort of ballpark? I know you can't give it exactly. Are we looking at something significant, or just something less than significant?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've been very conservative at a 1% rate increase if we're talking about rates. Where I would caution, we do have to complete the asset management plan. So once that comes into effect, we need to take a look at a financial strategy there and ensure we actually do have sufficient reserves for system replacement down the road. But this is premised on a 1% increase.
Okay, thank you. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll move on to consent. So who would like to pull items on consent? Yes, Jerry, which by number?
6, 4, 8B.
6, 4, and 8B. Okay. And 5C, 6, 4 twice, 5C, 8B. Okay. Donna?
5A and B, and 6, 11, and 13.
Okay, 5A, 5B, 6, 11, and what was the last one? Sorry?
6, 13.
And 6, 13. I'm running out of room here on my thing. So A, I'm just matching it to mine. A, B, C. No, don't need that one. 6. I'm sorry. 6A1, I'd like both. We have 6, 4, 6, 6, And I'd like to pull 621.
Go first.
Okay, so 5A, which is who called for 5A?
Donna.
Go ahead.
Okay. 5A and B, I think are connected. It's about the tender for the extension of the services. And I'm sure this has happened, but living through a water and sewer situation before, I just wanted to make sure that the residents of Smith and Fraser and South to Bridge are aware of this, and will they be required to do hookups once this is complete? Or does this come at a later consultation?
To you, Mr. Chair, I could answer that question. So definitely any of the residents in that area are very much aware of the process that's going on. And actually everybody in that area is already connected to water. On Smith Street, that's one of the only areas in Wakefield that's not currently connected to sewer. And actually with the work that's being completed, because it has to do with Lakefield South and it has to do with oversizing of mains and different things like that, any connection costs would actually be very favorable for the folks along there. We definitely circulated information from public information centers, and I've been in contact personally with probably half a dozen folks there over the last 5 to 10 years that actually would love to hook up to sewer. So definitely the community is aware of it.
Okay, thank you. If they already have water, that was, in my experience, the huge issue, because if they had good wells, they would have to be decommissioned. So if they already have water, that won't be an issue.
Okay, I had a question on that as well, and it might have been in there, I might have missed it, but the tender amount, does that include building the trail from Smith Street over to the highway? Not to the highway, but to yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only trail that's involved in this project would actually go from the end of Smith Street out to Bridge along the construction route. So this does not put a bridge over Rays Creek, and it does not extend the trail out to Young's Point.
So it's about 200 meters of trail that it's included in it, something like that. Right? There'll be a trail from the end of Smith Street out to the Lakefield Road. Bridge Street.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So there's a trail from the end of Smith Street going to Bridge Street, and I'm asking whether the cost of doing that trail is covered in this tender.
That's correct.
Okay, good. 5C, who wanted that pulled? Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with regards to the renovations to the former Scout building, I absolutely agree with Scott's recommendation that we just hold off because due to the bids that were received for like almost $500,000 or $500,000. I was just doing some quick calculations. The average cost to build a house in Canada ranges from $118 to $189 or not $190 per square foot. So I was just calculating out at $300,000, which was what the architect had suggested, including the contingency, if I'm reading it right. So at $300,000 at $118 a foot, you could build a house that's almost 2,500 square feet, or at 190 per square foot, almost 1,600 square feet. And I'm pretty sure that the Scout building, which has good bones, even at that $305,000, it seems high to me. So definitely we need to wait and see if we can get some better prices.
Other comments on that? Okay. So that's 5A, B, C. 6A1, I pulled that one. This is the communications on the conservation authorities. So as colleagues may know, the Bill 229, Schedule 6 was passed today by the House. And so I would suggest changing the second part of that to say that the Township supports the appeal to the province of Ontario not to proclaim Schedule 6 until that conversation that is outlined in paragraph 3 takes place. So it's just a matter now that the legislation is actually passed, that the issue be that they don't proclaim it till they had the consultation. If colleagues are satisfied with that change. Okay. So then we go to 6.4. I think Anita, you wanted to talk about that?
Yeah, this is with regards to the motion that we passed at our last council meeting. With regards to the two options for the parking near the bridge on Water Street. Obviously, we received a lot of letters and comments and calls about it. I would like to propose, and I would like to propose actually that, or I would like to rescind the previous motion, and I'd like to ask staff for a report on basically a proposed third option, which would continue the trail to the bridge, possibly a narrower bridge or a narrower trail behind vehicles, provided that the width can be to accessibility standards. I'd like staff to bring back a report in January. 2021 is the 20th anniversary of the trail, and Lakefield is also part of the Trent Severn Trail Town. So I would actually like to rescind that previous motion and come up with a new motion to consider extending the trail right up to the bridge with some modifications.
Okay. To that point, let me speak to it as I asked it to be pulled as well. I would be willing to step out of the chair and second a motion to that respect. I just want to make one thing clear, and just make sure that Anita, you and I are on the same wavelength. I'd like to take a look at it to see if there's a possible third option. If there isn't a third option, then I would come back to supporting what council initially did. I realize that's probably going to delay the tender for 3 or 4 weeks. I get that. But if we can find a third way that allows for some continuation of the trail, and at the same time allows us to get most of that parking in there that we've talked about, then I'd say take a look. If at the end of the day it's not possible, it's not possible, and we go back to what our initial decision. But if there's nobody else, I'd be willing to second that. And Sherry wants to speak to it.
Yes, I'd like to speak to it. If if the end goal is that if we can't come to a compromise, that we go back to the original motion, then I would prefer, rather than rescinding the original motion, to defer dealing with it. And if we can do that, can we defer a decision?
I'm having trouble with my button there. I think really what you would need to do is you have made a decision.
Yes.
So if you want to reconsider that decision, you need to have a motion. And I believe, Ange, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember your process, but if you wish to reconsider your decision, then you need to have a motion put forward to suggest you're going to reconsider it. That motion would have to be approved, and then you would have to have a different motion that would tell us what you want us to do instead of that.
Okay, so if I can just finish my train of thought. If we can't come to a compromise, then we would carry on with the original motion. So I would like, if there is another motion, that be reflected. I don't want it to be that we take it away and start all over again. And my feeling is that nothing's changed when it comes to a lack of parking in Lakefield. I went shopping on Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning and could find no parking anywhere. we need the extra parking for our business owners, and I do have a couple of suggestions over what was given to us by the consultants. I think there should be a crosswalk at the corner of Bridge over Water Street to connect for pedestrians, whether we make a change or not. I think there should be one there. And I believe 2 of the proposed spots should be for disabled parking at the corner. That was never talked about by the consultants. This would unfortunately reduce the number of extra spots because disabled parking needs bigger spots. So you're going to be reducing them already, but I think there should be some there. It's important for accessibility. And I don't understand why the consultants didn't come up with a third scenario. Are we going to go back to the consultants and ask them to relook at it again? And if so, what's that going to cost? And I don't want to lose any more parking spots. I'm being quite clear about it. I think that we have given the Lakeville Trail people some consideration at the other end of Water Street. We're doing things to help the trail there. And I mean, my portfolio is economic development. So that's where I kind of stand with that. That's where my preference is. So if you can come up with a way of having a look without costing us a lot of money and maintaining the parking spots, I'm in. Thank you.
Jerry.
My portfolio is Park and Rec, and you should see my fan mail. So I've got a couple questions. So we're gonna have to bring back DM Wills on this, correct?
Yes,
At what cost?
I would have to ask that question. I can't. I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
before we do anything, I think we should get a number from it, because my follow-up question then would be, who pays for that? Does that come out of general government for the entire township, for the additional cost for them to do the work?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure it would come out of the, yes.
Okay. And, oh, I had one more. DM Wells. So if my colleagues would indulge me, I've also got a little speech written due to the emails that I've received, and I believe we've all received over the last, I guess, over the weekend. Oh, I know what my other question was. So we're revisiting this decision right now. If somebody, next meeting, we make a decision and they send us a letter saying that, hey, I've got an idea, do we have the opportunity then to revisit every single decision we make and not get anything accomplished? I guess is my question. Once a decision's made, I always thought that was final. Now here we are today revisiting it. We've got people wanting to rescind motions based on some emails that we got. I'm just wondering if we're opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, so there is a specific process around how you reconsider a decision. So you can reconsider a decision, and there's that process that I explained around how you would do that. So that is council's prerogative.
Okay, fair enough.
I guess where you would have a problem is if you've made a decision and the implementation has already been done. I guess you could still depending on what it was, undo it. But and just to clarify, in terms of where the cost would get charged, it would be part of the capital project budget for this project.
Okay. I'd like to see a cost, if I could.
Okay, if I can just, I guess the one thing that we do need to be mindful of is if we're going to have an opportunity to move this project forward as part of 2021 capital budget, the more we delay this decision in terms of what the design is going to look like, then that puts off how we can get ready for the tender. So once a decision's made, then the design has to be completed. So the design work's not going to be done until the decision's made. So it does have an impact on our ability to get that tender out and be in a position to get good pricing for 2021 and get it into our 2021 budget.
Thank you. So again, based on the emails I received, I think it's important that I respond. So again, if you guys would indulge me here, or your line, And I want to thank the Lakefield Trail Group for their passionate letters regarding our decision at the last meeting. Their hard work and dedication to Lakefield is commendable. However, veiled threats of who is a great voter and who may not be a great voter cannot weigh on our decisions. In fact, I find it borderline offensive, and if you cannot have a debate without lording a vote over you, then that's just a shame. Like it or not, we as council, we all know that we're never going to make a decision that's going to make everybody happy. I believe that sometimes, and not all, but sometimes, special interest groups only look at the items from their own perspective and not through the lens of the whole. With that said, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And I believe in this case, what we did was right. The betterment of the community is with the 5 additional parking spots. The economics of the additional parking makes sense. The responsibility to provide an opportunity for our businesses and their staff to thrive is our job too. Walkers, cyclists, and vehicles have battled for years, and I do recognize the issue that the Trail Committee has brought forward. This portion has been cycled and walked for years. Now, and only now, once they talked about the Water Street reconstruction, are we hearing about it. As a compromise, I would suggest that a painted crosswalk over to the sidewalk on the canoe and paddle side may be of assistance. I realize that they must cross the road, but this at least gets the users to the existing sidewalk. Should council not see fit for this adjustment, then I believe we need to maintain the original course. And of course, this was written before all this went down tonight. And I'll finish with a quote from one of the emails that we received regarding the trail. Accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. And I find it ironic in this case that truer words may never have been spoken. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Donna?
Yes, I think I'm the only one that hasn't made comment. I actually agree with parts of what everyone has said tonight. I believe, as the deputy mayor said, we really should have disabled at least a couple of disabled parking spots. I'm always of the opinion that if we can find a compromise and help out everybody, that is usually my position. But I'm not certain how we move forward with this unless we could ask DM Wells of a potential cost, and if they could see a potential solution which would not reduce parking spaces, it would have to be a modified trail. So if that could be a process, and then we maybe have a Zoom meeting to make a final decision when we have that information, that's a possible way to move forward. But I would not want to spend a lot more money, and I would not want to lose parking spaces.
Can I just ask and see, Angie's in the other room, and she may have an idea in terms of costs based on what we've incurred so far, what we might be looking at in terms of a cost to have them look at another design. Ange, did you have anything?
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
You're kind of muffled.
Okay, sorry. Is that better? Okay, so in terms of cost, I'm sorry, I can't give you a number off the top of my head. I just know that there would be additional costs. That's obvious. A couple of comments that I just wanted to add. There are 2 accessible parking spaces that have been incorporated into the design. They're actually located along the roadway itself. So I did want to just clarify that. The other comment I just wanted to clarify, in terms of painting a crosswalk on the road, that is something that we would not, that we wouldn't recommend. When you do that, you're creating a designated crosswalk, and that, from a traffic perspective, the cars still have the right of way. So you may be creating a liability by actually having the illusion that it's a proper crosswalk when there isn't one, because the cars still have the right of way. So I just caution council on that suggestion. In terms of the actual design itself, DM Wills had the survey of the area. They looked at the area and they looked at what the width of a trail would be, as well as the width of the parking stalls. So that design was prepared knowing what the engineers designed for a parking spaces as well as the trail. So those parking spots were designed based on the area.
Okay, thank you. So it would seem to me that if we ask DM Wills to look at it and they say, we've already done all the work, there's no options, then that's a fairly straightforward response back. But I still rest with the idea of there's you know, we're not asking for a grand design here. We're asking for somebody to take a look at it and say, is there another option? And it could be that there isn't another option. That's the very likely outcome. I think there's a basic consensus, and council did this the last time, that we need the parking spots. I don't think anybody's off of that point, not that I've heard. But I think what Anita brought up and what I have some support for is to ask the question, is there a third option? If the answer comes back and says, no, it's one or the other, well, council's pretty clear in its direction on that. But to ask the question, is there an option? And if the answer is no, it's no, right? It's no. And then we go with the parking. So if that in my mind shouldn't take a long period of time to do. And if in terms of a process, just so that we can do it, there would be a motion that I guess Anita would make for reconsideration. It would need to pass. If that would pass, then a motion would come before us that would say that we make a request for DM Wills to provide an opinion as to whether there's a third option, that in providing that opinion, if it was to be that they would let us know in advance what the cost of that would be to just provide the opinion. We're not looking for a design, we're looking for an idea. Okay, is there an idea? Should there not be a third option, then council's original decision, taken whatever date it was, would come into force, and if that would require us to repass it, then we would repass it. But if it could just come into play, that would be all the better. Also, while we're doing it, to Sherry's 2 points, or I think Sherry the point about can we look at additional accessible parking? Thank you. And I don't know, Jerry, whether you got the answer on the crosswalk or whether you want that to come back. You got
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, so that would be the process that we would follow. So yes, Don.
Would we have to wait until our January meeting to say yay or nay?
We can call a special meeting to come back if getting the information so that they can go out with the tender is an issue, then we can have a special meeting, because I don't think we're scheduled to meet in January till the second Tuesday of January. And then we certainly could. Well, yeah, there's all kinds of ways to do it. We do it all the time.
It's through you. So if we're just asking for an opinion, why do we do anything with our original decision right now? Like, why do we have to reconsider if we're just asking, from what I understand, we're asking the consultant for an opinion as to whether there is something else that can be done?
Well, I'm acting on the advice of the clerk that says that if we don't do that, then asking for the opinion is disingenuous, because we're moving ahead with what we decided last time. Right? You can't ask for somebody to give you something different if you've already committed, if you're going in a different direction. That's my understanding of what the clerk has said. Am I incorrect on that?
Yes, because we've been given direction.
Right.
And if you don't want us to proceed with that direction, then, and you wish to reconsider the decision, then you need to.
There's a
not be.
nuance. There's a nuance here. Council isn't saying don't proceed with that direction.
No.
What it's saying is don't proceed at that direction right now. We want to ask an additional question. And that when we get the answer to that question, we'll either proceed with the original discussion or we will alter. we're making what is a fairly straightforward, and I should have asked this question last time. I get it, but we're asking for a fairly straightforward thing. Is there a third option? It's whatever we need to do to be able to ask that question. If the answer is no, then we're going to proceed with the way we said. If the answer is yes, then we'll take a look at it. It's that straightforward. I'm not trying to make this into building a spacecraft. It's fairly straightforward. Jerry.
Thank you. Through you. We're used to it. We had a sidewalk. I don't know if you heard about that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably, we do enough business with DM Wills, whoever did our study there. Is it possible to make the phone call and say, hey, listen, is there that third office or option? And yes or no? Okay, yes, there is. We can take a look at it. Hey, give me a number. Give me a number now of what it is. So it's one phone call. Give us a rough number, but I want to know that number. We just turned down a $4,700 sign tonight that would help 15,000 people within our community. And if the study is going to come back at $5,000 for, a population of say 2,000 plus visitors, whatever you want to break the thing down, is that the tipping point? What's the number? What's the number for us to go ahead with another study on it, or the third option, as you say?
Okay. So to Jerry's point, which is a good one, is it possible just not to implement the decision that we took last time, pending asking that question, without us taking any formal action? That's, I think,
That's kind of the question I had too.
Good questions. I think that's probably directed at the clerk, because all we're really saying is, let's just hit the pause button, ask the question if there's a third option. If there is no third option, we'll lift the pause button. We just proceed the way we had planned. If there is a viable third option and it doesn't cost us a lot of money to get there, then we'll take a look at it. Is that?
So, Mr. Chair, I can certainly make that call. I think my point I was trying to make was that there wasn't a third option because we already had that conversation, but I'm happy to make that call again.
So,
and if I can just add to that, if in order for them to determine whether there's a third option, they're probably going to need to do, if and given Ange's point that they did try and look at all the options, if we're going to ask them to do more work to see if another one can be created, there might be some work involved in doing that.
And so that's part of the conversation. If they come back and say, sure, I can come up with a third option, it's going to cost you 30 grand. Then there's a response. So,
sorry. So, Mr. Chair, just in terms of, so it, like the third option could be, and we can't go there because it's a 2-lane road, but like you only have so much space to deal with. So they looked at all of the space within the existing road bed, the existing sidewalk, to put in the proper parking stalls, as well as add a proper trail.
Thank you. Through you to Angie then. So basically, you're saying they've exhausted the options, Angie? I just want... Well,
I guess the option could be you go to one way, but then you're looking at your entire design all over again. So
that's not what council has in mind.
Thanks.
I understand that. Anyway, I can see we're sort of going around the bush here. So we can make that call.
Donna? Yes, Donna.
It's my understanding that we believe that we can't have a proper trail in that area, but a compromise, a narrower pathway whatsoever in place of a proper trail for that particular portion. I think we all know that we can't have a proper trail there and keep the same parking spaces. So the alternative would be, could we have a narrower trail that would be viable and still keep the parking spaces? And that would be the question. And then the cost.
Okay, So ask the question, let us know what the answer is. If the answer is no, council is quite clear in the direction it wants to take. Can we do that without getting into a lot of motions? We just hold it into we just hold the issuance of the design until we ask that question. Yeah, before the end of the year, we should be able to do it very quickly. Is that okay? I'm directing it to the clerk.
So perhaps what you might want to have is a motion that just tells us not to take any action on that resolution and to contact DM Wills to discuss the possibility of a third option.
Okay, so the motion is not to rescind the original motion, just simply a motion to ask the additional question and give the information to council.
And not to
receive
take
it,
any
not to
direction
take any
on that
action
previous resolution.
Yeah. Okay, you're willing to move that? Okay, sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
But that answer has to include a cost.
And include costs.
Absolutely
Yes,
has to.
yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm willing to come out of the chair and second that motion if that's people are. Okay, I will second that motion. Okay. Okay, thank you, colleagues. Okay, now, you know I'm going to have to find my list again, right? Okay, so that was 6-4. Somebody called 6-11.
Yes, that was me.
Okay.
This was just information in the Chamber News, and it was about 2 community care fundraisers. I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that in community care in Ennismore, that instead of their regular silent auction that I know you really like, Anita, I like it too, they've set up the prizes, only it's as draw prizes. So if you stop in, you could look at them, buy tickets, and put them in the raffle. So it wouldn't be a silent auction, it would be a draw. And then also the Buckhorn, I think it's the Buckhorn Community Care, are selling cookbooks, COVID cookbooks at happenstance for $20. Do they? That was all I had for number 11.
Okay. Thank you. 13.
Oh, that's me too. It was the Minoman call to action for Parks Canada to protect wild rice. And seeing we have a wild rice communications group, and maybe this has happened, but I think it would be appropriate to send this correspondence along to the Save Pigeon Lake group or the members of that committee, because I think it would be appropriate for us to keep them informed. They may be informed of this, but I think it's our responsibility to keep them informed, especially because we have that committee.
So it's
that
just
all
to
right,
forward
Janice?
that correspondence on. Okay.
Is that all right?
If, for sure, if council wants to forward that to the committee members, if that's what you're asking for,
Yeah.
then we can forward it to the committee members. Yeah, just
Thank you.
If you'd like to have a resolution to that effect.
Sure. I resolve that we forward the call to action for Parks Canada to protect wild rice to the members of the Wild Rice Communications Committee for the Township of Selwyn.
Seconded by Jerry. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, next item was, I think, 621, and I very much appreciate the food banks. Thank you. I just want to point out, because says, dear Andy, Lakeville Food Bank would like to thank you for organizing. I don't want to overlook the fact that it was Dave Smith who did the organizing. Many members of council participated in it, but Dave did the work on organizing. I just want to make sure he got recognized for his hard work and that of his staff in doing that. I think, Sherry, you had 8B, which is the police services
Speed
board.
awareness policy that we're relooking at tonight. There are some changes there, and I have a question for Donna. Why can the public go directly to the OPP about a speed complaint, and council members have to go through the secretary of the police services board, who will then send it to the OPP? And I'm saying, what are we, chopped liver? When the public called the secretary, she could advise of Road Watch that it's an education process, and that's now going to be lost if it goes directly to the OPP.
Yeah, I agree that I'm not sure how I let that slip through. It does not make sense. If we had a member of the public call us and say, have a speeding concern, we would have to say to them, well, you can call the OPP, but I have to put it through the corporate services assistant. So I think we should send this back to the police services board. I do know that when we were having this discussion that Chris Galeazza did not want to eliminate the potential for public to call the OPP with concerns. And I think somehow it must have gotten lost in translation that they were able to do it, but council wasn't. So I don't think that's appropriate. So I would recommend that we send it back to the police services board.
And actually, the other thing is the thing I mentioned to Steve tonight. It talks about traffic calming strategies in that policy. And I really don't want the public to have false hope that we are going to, as a township, offer up speed bumps or bollards or something to slow traffic down, because that isn't our policy as a township. So I think maybe the wording for that should be changed as well when it goes back.
We
Donna?
might be specific about what they're talking
Yes.
about in traffic calming strategy.
Yes, because actually Steve didn't really mention, he didn't answer that question when I asked it.
Okay.
So if you're making a motion, I'll second it.
All right, that we'll send it back.
Motion is to return the policy for review back to the
Yeah.
police services board. Moved by
Jerry,
Donna,
Jerry has. Yeah.
seconded, comment.
Thank you, through you to Donna. So my only concern is with regards to the council's position on this. I guess the question is, when we did our first Black Cat and it landed on Gifford, and we had the Central Region Black Cat unit there, how was Gifford picked? Was it because you're on the police board and you'd heard the complaints and you knew that was a potential hot spot and said, hey, I got an idea, I can put it on Gifford? Is that sort of the along the lines?
It wasn't me, actually. Everybody around the table has heard about Gifford Drive and the speeding issues for like 15 years. I'm sure Sherry can concur with that.
That's true.
Okay, so
That's how Gifford was determined to be a trial road, when even before we had our own personal Black Cat.
okay, so that's sort of the gist of what I'm trying to achieve here is we deal with enough people out there that you hear the complaints, you know when there's an issue out there, when you get enough of them calling, or you're stopping in and you see them and you run in, rather than somebody who lives at the end of a one-way dead-end street calling and saying, these guys are screaming down the street, you know, and then the cops go and put the thing there, when we as a council in each individual area may know of, you know, this is a serious problem. I'm just wondering if we can put language in there that council, not all the time, but might be able to jump the line a little bit, because you guys only meet, what, 3 or 4 times a year?
Yeah.
So by the time it actually went to the police services board, and, you know, I'm just looking for a little leverage.
Well, yeah, well,
As you go
we'll
back
make
with
sure
this.
you get the same leverage as the general public, but you'd never have to wait until the the meeting because what do we call our secretary? Our secretary always forwards it on to the OPP as soon as she gets it. So you don't have to wait the 3 months until the Police Services Board meets again. Usually what we get is the Black Cat report in 3 months, or depending on what the timing is. But you certainly should have the same opportunity to call the OPP if you feel you want to as general public. It does make sense. I'm not sure how that slipped through. Sorry.
Okay, I think that was all
We
the,
haven't voted on it,
yeah, we have to vote on the rest of the consent items.
but
Or
we
did
had a
we not
motion on that.
Oh, did we not vote on? Oh,
No.
okay, sorry.
So I'd
All in
make the
favor?
motion, and you second it?
Yeah,
do we
Donna?
record a vote? Recorded, yeah. Recorded vote.
Okay.
What do you actually have there, Tanya? How have you written it? You're going to be our new secretary. I think we should have some specifics in there.
Yeah.
Specific to the protocol for council,
Complaints.
how they interact, and then we want examples of traffic calming strategies.
Yes, so I've noted that the speed awareness policy be returned to the board for review, and that council requests that more specific wording be added to the traffic calming strategy or measures, as well as that the section indicating that council needs to contact staff in order to lodge a speeding complaint be amended so that it reflects the same wording as it does for the public.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a request for a recorded vote?
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Dennis,
Yes.
Councilor Valentine,
Who, you're breaking up?
sorry, Councilor Valentine,
Yes.
Councilor Heron,
Yes.
Councilor Locke,
Yes.
motion is carried.
Okay, that concludes 8.4. We don't have any petitions. Portfolio updates, Donna.
Yeah, the library board has one meeting left for 2020, and that will be December the 15th. And our main business at that meeting will be to set up a fundraising committee to try and get some dollars to support our enhanced library services. And previously, these dollars had come from mainly book sales. So we're going to try and see. We're doing in-house book sales. We're going to try and see what else we can come up with, like maybe virtual concerts. And I don't know, we haven't actually done our brainstorming, but we will be striking a committee. And I believe you're up to date on my other committees, Police Services Board. We just talked about the Wild Rice Communication Group. And I don't think there's anything further on the transportation. That's it.
Thank you, Donna. Sherry?
Thank you, through you. I've been speaking to various businesses in Bridgenorth and Lakefield as to how they're managing. And the Bridgenorth Deli is now open for business. Before it used to be all curbside, but they've opened their doors and they have proper protocols in place. And it's interesting, some of the businesses are seeing their usual clientele. Some businesses have had a big uptick from Peterborough customers. And I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with the local advertising that we were doing. And then there are others that routinely receive phone calls saying, can you get my order ready? I'm on my way up to the cottage. So there's still a lot of people coming up to the cottage on the weekend and putting an order in on the way home. So some businesses are doing quite well right now. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And we will move on to Jerry.
Public Works, they're busy putting up a snow fence and checking all the culverts to make sure that everything's clear. Recreation Department, there's only 10 people allowed at the public skating event right now, so they're not doing it. You disappoint more people than you would please with the skating. Minor hockey's using all the available hours on the weekends if they can. Minor hockey again, however, no Christmas break time booked whatsoever. So, or a little bit, sorry. So essentially we're shut down over the Christmas break. It'll help cost, but hurt the revenues. And speaking of Mike today again, waiting anxiously for the October numbers to come in to see what the difference is between that September open as well as the October open in cost, so that we may have a leg to stand on when we go to the OMHA with all other municipalities who have arenas. Thank you.
Okay, Anita?
No, not too much. Our Heritage Committee and our Accessibility Advisory Committee are not meeting in December. We'll meet up again in January. I think all of us, or most, Sherry and Andy and I, we showed up at the Lakefield Farmers Holiday Market on Sunday afternoon. It was chilly, but there was a lot of great vendors there, and so I want to just give a big shout out to the organizers of that, and I just want to wish all our ratepayers a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Anita. I've got a couple of things I want to speak to. The first one is public health. As colleagues are probably aware, the province has struck an immunization task force. They are in the process of beginning the rather complex process of rolling out vaccines. Had an opportunity to be on a call today with the Premier, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister of Health, and the Solicitor General, and General Hillier. And I think I might be missing one of the ministers that was there. And we had they began to speak to the rollout. So there will be a limited number of the Pfizer vaccine that will come first. As colleagues may know from reading the media, it requires it to be in a deep freeze until it's used. So how you deploy it it creates some logistical challenges. There are target audiences that have been selected by the province, and they will be providing more details on how that rolls out over the next little while. I think the good news in this, or I think important to reflect upon, a year ago, if somebody had said COVID-19, nobody would know what you were talking about. So less than 12 months later, we're getting ready to start to roll out a vaccine. That is a tremendous achievement by our medical and scientific community, both here and abroad, in achieving that. So one can really hope and pray that this really is the beginning of bringing what has been a very, very difficult period of time to a conclusion. As you're also probably aware, we continue to be in the yellow alert status. There were some changes. HTPR, which is the neighboring health unit, also went to yellow, effective 12:01 a.m. on Monday. Peterborough Public Health is issued directions to all, not directions, advice to all of the municipalities in terms of rental of our facilities to organizations from outside of the area. They also issued advice in respect of the safest way for individuals to celebrate the holiday season. and those are all posted on their website. And I would be remiss if I didn't, as I say every time I talk publicly, mask, physical distancing, washing your hands, and if you're ill, stay home and don't assemble in large groups. Those are the 5 mantras of it. We talked about the Conservation Authority earlier. Just wanted to mention, I think there was correspondence in this council package, but Hydro One, as you know, which is operating our utility in the Lakefield and in Peterborough and in Norwood, established a local investment fund, which they put money in every year. So this past year, they contributed money to Kawartha Food Share, the Yes Shelter, and Brock Mission. And so this is something that they look to replicate every year. Peterborough County, tomorrow there is an election for the warden. I believe it's tomorrow, right? Yeah, today's Tuesday, makes tomorrow Wednesday. Tomorrow afternoon, and the regular county council meeting, therefore, will take place on Friday this week. We all saw the advice of the work for the causeway, the winter work for the causeway. Start of the winter work for the causeway will begin. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I had an opportunity on Saturday to stop in at Giant Tiger. Dave Smith was conducting a clothes drive, and there were quite a few people that were going through, and there's a lot of activity there. So thanks to Dave for doing that. So that completes my report. Other new and unfinished business, I had an item. So colleagues, what I was going to suggest, being the Christmas and holiday season, New Year season, normally we would be out and about doing lots of things and have lots of opportunities. We're not really going to have a chance to do that. So what I'd like to suggest is at either the beginning of or the end of our special meeting on Thursday, with the 5 of us in our seats, that we ask Megan to shoot a bit of a video of all of us wishing everybody happy, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and thanks or whatever. Not anything long or scripted. And I'll just ask each person to say something, and I'll finish it up, and then that will get posted up online, and then you can repost or reuse as you see fit, if everybody's comfortable doing that. Okay? Yes. Jerry, I think you can be as unique and as creative as you want to be. Just let me be me. Just let you be you. Okay. Was there any other new business? I don't see any. So we have a series of bylaws. We have the 2 zoning approvals that we changed. We agreed into consent to a merger agreement. We have the sanitary sewer extension contract, and we have the water rate bylaw that Lane put forward. And Anita will move all of those, and Donna will second it. All those in favor? Okay, we need a confirming bylaw from Sherry, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? And we need an adjournment from Sherry, seconded by Anita. All in favor? We are adjourned. Colleagues, thank you very much. Staff, thank you for all your support tonight. Very much appreciated.